everybody recording?
I'm
And
going,
recording.
baby. The mic is hot.
Recording? All right. Mike's hot.
Mike's hot. Who's
Mike's
Mike?
hot.
Who's Mike?
Like Oxmal.
Oh my god.
Hello and welcome to Culture Illiterate, a podcast where four friends overthink comic book movies. I'm one of your hosts, Jake, and I just bought a Morbius statue. With me are my friends and fellow co-hosts.
My name's Jason, and I forgot that we started these things with a fun fact.
Brilliant.
Literally, for whatever reason, that left my mind until right this second when Jake started giving his. So I didn't have one prepared, but I guess I will go with the fact that I just saw Blink-182 in concert with Tom DeLonge, and that was my first time seeing them with Tom. I saw them with Matt one time, but he's not the original. So that was pretty cool.
Hi, I'm Matt, and I also forgot to do a fun fact too, because honestly, after watching this movie, I just was done with everything, and so I just shut off my head and just went back to sleep. And then I just went on with my day, and now I'm here, totally unprepared, which is not far from the usual, but this time I got nothing.
Yeah.
So let's just move on.
Let me
This
say
movie
this.
just took everything out of me.
Speaking, just to comment on that, I put off watching this movie as much as I could, to the point that I watched it last night, and I was thinking about it, and I was like, would I have time to watch it tomorrow before recording? And I had to force myself to watch it, because I was like, no, I wouldn't. I would not have time.
I feel that so much because I did it yesterday. I mean, I did it today during work, and I've tried to put it off as much as possible because I knew what I was going into. But yeah, I'm Sean. My fun fact is that I don't know if I said this fun fact before, but when I was a kid, I used to think that when you died, you went to an eternal coffee shop.
You definitely did not say that one before, because I'd remember that.
That's wild. I hope that's true.
That was what I thought when, like, my grandmother died, was that she was in, like, a coffee shop for the rest of her... the rest of the afterlife.
That's so adorable. I want that. That's my new religious belief. I'm choosing to believe that that's the case.
I would love that.
All right, so before we get started, I just want to tell Jake, can we just not do the synopsis? Like, it just seems kind of pointless. It all sucks.
What else?
Like, you
what
don't
else are we
really
gonna
need
do?
us.
Yeah,
You don't
Matt, what
really
else
need
are we
a
gonna talk
synopsis
about?
other than
Matt,
the fact that it
there's
just
no way
sucks.
we fill an hour
We can
plus without the
complain.
synopsis.
We can just complain for an hour.
No.
I
Let's
can't
do
even.
structureless.
That's too much, Matt. I can't even
I
complain
want it to
about
be
this movie for
structureless,
10
'cause then
minutes.
our structureless conversations will be 10 times more interesting than what this movie has to offer. And it had how many, like, $50 million budget? We can do that with like a few spare bucks. Okay, that's all you need to know.
All right. Well, how about something pleasant first? I was gonna recommend going to your local Comic-Con because I mean, Sean and Matt went for a day. I just went to spend this past weekend at Philly Fan Expo. You know, around where I live, and it was a good time. I'd only ever been to New York Comic Con before, hadn't been to any others, but it's a great way to just, you know, kind of like spend however you want. There's pretty much something for everyone there, I think, between like all the different vendors and Artist Alley and panels. If you have like any interest, it's probably covered at least a little bit, and it's like a really great way to support small local businesses. So I just kind of wanted to shout that out because I had a really nice time there, and I wasn't sure what to expect from something that was, I'm used to going to the big commercial ones. Commercial one, I guess, is only New York that I've been to, but that's my little different than our usual rec.
I might add that Jake so kindly got me a exclusive pop from that Comic-Con, and I wanted to take the time to appreciate that because that was very kind of him. I still have to pay him back for that, but he went out there and stood in line for me and got it, so I appreciate it.
What's this pop?
No problem, buddy.
It's Homer Simpson going into the hedges, because I love The Simpsons, and
The Simpsons is great.
So happy about it. I'm so excited.
That was an exclusive pop there. It's
Yeah.
incredible.
Isn't that sick? Jake told me about
looks
it.
pretty good.
Jake told me about it, and I was like, I want that. I want that so bad. So again, shout out Jake for being the vessel for me to grab that. I also have a rec though. A band I've wrecked before on this podcast, Heart Attack Man. You may remember them from being one of my tattoos that I've talked about. They just put out their new album called Freak of Nature, and it is fantastic. It is catchy, it is aggressive, it's poppy, it's punk, it's great, it's everything that I think a great pop punk record should be, and I can't say enough good things about Heart Attack, man. Seem to be tremendous people from my interactions with them. Great musicians. Nothing but love for them.
I got a little bit of a rec as well, and it's the exact same thing as Jake's. I recommend you go to your local Comic-Con because it's a pretty good time. You're bound to be spending a lot of money, and you will be filling that hole in your wallet for a very long time, but I would say it's worth it. You get to meet panels full of people who range from being okay to not want to be there. And then you do, well, I guess I have like a, how do I say this? What's the opposite of recommendation? De-recommendation?
A
I
warning?
de-recommend something. I de-recommend something. And that is going to a Tara Strong panel in a Comic-Con. Because
Damn.
I'm going to tell you right now. It
Doing
was
Tara
one of the
like
most
that?
awkward. It's nothing to do with Tara herself. It's just her super weird fans that go to her panel and then sing a Danny Phantom song. And I put singing in heavy quotations because he just screamed it into a mic. And I immediately left as soon as he uttered his first syllable because I knew I was going to be suffering if I sat through it all. And I just left. It was so awkward. And people kept just asking really, really like, these are like questions that you do in like a Twitter Q&A, not when she's right there.
Your one chance to talk
So
to Tara
weird.
Strong. And you sing
And
Danny Phantom.
They ask her the equivalent of fandom questions. I'm like, oh my god, this is such a... One, it's a waste. It was a waste of everybody's time because what in the world is so interesting about who would win a fight, Harley Quinn or Twilight, whatever her name is, that pony from that pony cartoon? Like,
I feel
what's
like
the point?
That's the thing.
What
Like,
kind of value do you get asking a question like that? I don't understand.
you might never have the opportunity to ask this person a question again, and that's what you're gonna ask. You know what I mean?
It's just continuous.
Like, that's kind of crazy to me.
And I'm not talking about like 5-year-old girls. Like if it's 5-year-old girls, then that's just what it is, right? But then these are like 20, maybe even 30-year-olds, and then like some men who seem like they've never left their basement. It's so weird. They're so weird. Oh my god. And one of the weirdos tried to talk to me and Sean while he was next to the microphone. It was it was so weird. Either way,
and that sucks because like Tara Strong's such a legend and such an icon.
yeah, she is a legend.
Like,
yeah, she
genuinely
voiced Raven
like
and Teen
deserves
Titans.
a great panel.
She's Harley Quinn.
Yeah, she deserves to have a great panel with good questions, and that sucks that it was just kind of cringe in your experience.
Here's the thing, and what I've learned is that if your panel features a female voice actress and she has voiced at least one thick-thighed woman in a cartoon, stay away from it. Because
that makes sense.
It's not going to be comfortable.
It's probably a lot of incel territory, you know, in that, and that sucks. You know, it just sucks.
It does suck, but something just came to mind, and it's something that I didn't participate in, and I still thank the gods that I didn't. It's the there was a panel at Philly Comic-Con that featured the voice actress and motion capture actress for Lady Dimmery. I forgot her name, but she's the tall lady from Resident Evil 8.
That everyone wants to step on them.
Yes.
Oh,
And
okay.
everyone
Now I
wants
know
her
who you're
to
talking
suck on
about.
them.
That's what put
She
me
was there, and Sean looked at me and said, "We're not going to that." And I just immediately nodded. I'm like, I'm not going to ruin my first Comic-Con by going to a thirst fest. That's the last thing I want to do. And the last thing I want to remember.
You know,
I'm like, I'm going to go to this Tara Strong panel instead, which ended up being the same thing. But at least it was Tara Strong. So I can't even say it's memorable because I don't want to remember it. I want to purge it from my mind and forget it ever happened. I just want to remember the times. I would rather just remember the times of me and Sean just being at the Japanese arcade all day. That's it. I don't even have to like remember the question I asked Sam Raimi, or the fact that I asked a question to Sam Raimi, who is my childhood hero. But I don't forget all of that. I will give all that away just to forget about that Tara Strong panel because of how uncomfortable I was.
Damn.
Oh my god. God damn, I hated it. I hated it so much.
What's
If you can't tell already.
Well, what I will say is funny is that I had genuinely no idea who you were talking about until Jake said the one that everyone wants to step on them. The second he said that, I knew exactly who that character was.
That's the thing, is that
I only know that character
People
through that context.
I'm pretty sure
because
a lot
of the
you,
internet.
You know a lot of video game
I don't
characters
play
through that
video
context.
games, you know?
I'm going to tell you right now is that video game reveals can be some like the wildest things in the world, and if they reveal like just a somewhat sexy woman, the internet will go crazy.
Yeah, I've noticed
like,
that.
It's
because that's when I hear about video games, even though I don't follow any pages that relate to video games.
There are some things that transcend video games, such as thirst. Thirst is for everyone.
Yes.
And it reaches everyone's timeline.
Yep.
And you can't escape from it.
That's a fact.
You just need to embrace it or run away from it, which is what I do. I run away from it.
Listen, sometimes I don't mind it, but like when it's targeted, like it's like thirst that I want, it's like, okay, I don't mind this, but when it's like I don't play video games, this isn't for me. Give this to the people who need this.
Speaking of thirst that Jason wants, you got anything for us, Sean?
Excuse me?
What?
Jason?
I don't know.
Is there
what
something
that
you haven't
segue
told
was.
me?
That was a horrible segue.
I've
but
been
anyway,
sexually
I am
attracted
going
to you
to
since I was 12 years old.
Hell yeah.
One second. I'm going to take this over again because I am going to try to
God.
sidetrack this podcast as much as possible because I don't want to talk about this movie. But basically, if you heard my conversations, you'll probably notice that Sean is the only one that is mentioned and not Jake, the one who invited me to the Comic-Con. And that's because he was stuck in an autograph line for 7 hours. And it was honestly really funny. And I am forever, ever gonna tell Jake that he abandoned me at my very first Comic-Con. And he wasn't there, and I was like a lost sheep, and I wasn't able to do anything. Which even though that's a total lie, I'm still gonna say it.
Okay, well, long story short that I won't elaborate on, 9/11 kept me from getting Sam Raimi's autograph, and I'm like 99% sure Shamik Moore had the shits, which greatly delayed me getting his. And I will not elaborate.
The 9/11 thing.
All right, you're gonna have to elaborate that to me off mic.
Okay, yeah, I'll tell you off mic, Jason. I'll explain. But
Jason, you weren't there. You had to experience it.
I will leave any viewers who don't know me personally to wonder. Speaking of unpleasant experiences and sitting through them, and speaking of shit, we're covering Elektra. It released January 14, 2005, and boy, is it peak January cinema. Written by Zach Penn, Stuart Zickerman, and M. Raven Metzner. Directed by Rob Bowman and shot by Bill Rowe. It stars Jennifer Garner as Elektra, Goran Visnich, I'm assuming that's how you say his name. I don't know. Visnjic, the Europeans.
It doesn't matter.
As Mark Miller. Kirsten Zen as Abby Miller. William Lee as Kirigi. I don't remember how to say his name. It was such a boring movie. Kari Hiroyuki Tagawa as Roshi. Terrence Stamp as Stick. Natasha Malth as Typhoid. Bob Sapp as Stone. Chris Ackerman as Tattoo. Edson T. Ribeiro as Kinku. And Colin Cunningham as McCabe. Had anyone seen this movie before this?
I think years ago, Jake and I, watched it together, but I fell asleep pretty early into it. Do you remember that, Jake? Because I feel like I remember that happening, but...
It sounds about right. I know I watched it at some point when I was a kid, and I was, learning about these movies that existed and didn't really fully comprehend that movies could be bad yet.
Yeah, and I remember, I think I, watched it with you just because I liked doing things with you, because I thought you were cool. And then I fell asleep, so...
I like that the implication is that you thought he was cool and no longer believe that.
I didn't say that.
It's the implication.
So anyway, basically, I think I watched half of it at most once and fell asleep. I never went back to it because what I remembered from it was thinking, this is kind of boring, I want to fall asleep. And then I did, so there you go.
Well, I have never heard of this movie before until this podcast became a thing. And then I saw Jennifer Gardner was in it as Elektra. I'm like, oh. is that woman who played every mom in every movie that you never heard of. But
Love
other than
Simon.
that-
Woo!
Exactly. But
See,
other
here's
than
the thing.
that,
Not to cut you off, Matt, but I just want to on the
you
topic.
already did, so just go.
Well, I just want to while we're talking about Jennifer Gardner, that's the thing. She plays moms a lot, right? And she's so good at that. She's a fine actress, but God, is she bad in this? And it's not necessarily that she's bad. It's just that everything's bad. It speaks to how bad the film is. That you take a fine actress and
It can happen.
it can definitely happen.
happen.
It's happened plenty. Hayden
Oh
Christensen.
yeah. Except for Jennifer Garner, I feel like she wasn't awful in this movie.
She wasn't awful.
She did
She
a
was
fine
not.
job.
No.
She
It's
did
just
the best
that-
she could, but everything else around her was just pure dog shit.
Yeah, everything around her was god awful. I didn't know that Daredevil had a spin-off movie until, as I mentioned before, I became part of this podcast. And then, just like me going to the doctor ruins my week, having to watch this movie ruined my week because I knew that I had to watch it. Oh, my
And we're
God. It's
recording this
mental-
on a
it's mental
Tuesday, so his week just started.
it's mental torture. Like,
Shawnee baby, had you seen this before?
Just knowing these movies are ahead of me, I hate it so much. And fuck you, Jake, for trying to cut me off.
I guess going to me, I had not actually ever seen this movie before and actively tried to avoid it. It's such a, it's something that's so disappointing, especially from a historical standpoint, that the fact that Catwoman and this came out so quickly in between each other, and that also this movie is also partially the reason why we didn't get really many female-led superhero movies, because Ike Perlmutter went, no, this one did bad. That means women are bad. And God,
Or maybe women are fine and the movie was shit.
maybe the movie was just garbage.
To recap, to date, the superhero movies we've watched led by women were Supergirl, awful, Catwoman, awful, and Elektra, awful. The closest we've gotten is Batman Returns, which again technically had Catwoman in it more than Batman, but it's still, it is a Batman movie. So it's almost like women are getting the short end of the stick.
Yeah, so what I'm sensing the theme of here is that they're not putting a lot of effort into the women-led movies. Because all of them have felt lazy and terrible. And, speaking to Sean's point of him actively avoiding this movie until watching it for this podcast, I want to bring up the fact that we all fucking agreed to this. Like,
none of you were in the dark. This isn't
Jake told us his idea, what he wanted to do. He didn't even have to convince any of us. We all said yes off the rip. What's wrong with us?
Yeah,
I think that when I thought of it, I when we started this, I was like, oh man, it'll be great to get to like the MCU and we have like a bunch of enjoyable movies, and it'll just be fun to go through that again, even though it'd be like, I feel like it's gonna get boring at some point. It'll feel like we're watching the same movie over and over and over again, but
Yeah.
even then, I was like, oh yeah, there's some great movies in here, and I completely blacked out all of the ones that are garbage.
Well, I had a mix of that, and I also, a part of me just finds myself so funny that I just want to hear myself tell jokes. So, and this was really my excuse to do that. So, and now
I do think this is a banger episode so far.
Here we are. However many fucking
28.
episodes. 28. I knew it was in the 20s. And we just watched Catwoman a couple weeks ago. We watched Elektra. And now we're in the shit, and it's just, we're in too deep, because at this point we made a commitment, and it would be embarrassing to go back, right?
Yeah,
But-
if you stop the podcast now, you watched Catwoman for nothing. You watched
Exactly,
Elektra
and
for
it's like,
nothing.
I
You're
can't
just like,
do
I have
that.
to get to the good.
And and if I'm gonna commit to something, I'm gonna do it all the way, but I'm still mad that I did it.
I kind of want to bail. I'm not gonna lie.
Damn.
Damn.
Okay.
Podcast.
Nothing
bail.
against all of you, but
Listen,
I feel like my eyes will be burned out of my sockets by the time we get to Iron
But
Man.
think
I
about this,
can't-
Matt.
I can't
wait,
force
shut
you to
up, Jake.
stay, but I
Shut up,
hope
Jake.
you do.
Shut up, Jake. Shut up. Listen, Matt. Listen to me. The Dark Knight.
Even
that's
more
that's
recent,
ways off,
Elektra
Jason. That's ways off.
Okay,
I
but
know we
more-
have trash
Matt,
left to go.
Matt,
Okay,
but coming
Iron
up,
Man.
Elektra came out. Oh, but no, even more soon. Elektra came out in 2005. Do you know what else came out in 2005, Matt?
Batman Begins.
Okay,
That
never
perked
mind.
up a
I'm
little
back
bit.
on.
I don't want
That's
to
what got him.
You guys are my buddies. I don't want any of you to drop out.
4 short years later is The Dark Knight, right? Wasn't that 09?
3 years, 08.
Damn.
Iron Man, Incredible Hulk, and The Dark Knight are all 08. It was a pretty good year for those.
We're so close. We are
Okay,
so
we
close.
just gotta send this one home. You know, we're almost getting into the good. We're getting there.
Okay. Speaking of getting into it, I'm gonna run through a couple sentences of plot because it really is key to what my first point's gonna be. So, after being killed in Daredevil, Elektra Nachios is revived by blamed martial arts master Stick. He teaches her the ancient art of, I don't even remember how to say it because I'm white and I was drifting out right from the jump on this movie. Kimagure, Kimagira, I don't fucking know. Which provides its practitioners with precognition as well as the ability to resurrect the dead. Elektra is expelled from the training compound because of her inability to let go of her rage and fear of seeing her mother's killer as a child. She leaves and uses her training to become a contract killer. Years later, McCabe, Elektra's agent, receives an unusually large offer from an anonymous client wishing to hire Elektra. The only stipulation, she must spend a few days in a rented home on the island where the assassination is to be performed before the names of the targets are revealed. During the wait, Elektra catches a girl named Abby trying to steal her mother's necklace. She sends her away and later meets and befriends her father, Mark Miller. Abby invites Elektra to dinner on Mark's behalf. Elektra develops a romantic interest in Mark, but soon learns that he and Abby are the targets she has been hired to kill. So you may be thinking, like, okay, that's the setup. That's, like, maybe the first, 10 minutes of the movie, especially when I tell you all that stuff with Stick is done in, a couple minutes of, an animated prologue, which I'm indifferent to. It's kind of dull, but, it gets information out so it's relatively quickly. So you're probably like, oh, okay, how long is this movie? It's about 90, not including credits, it's about 94 minutes. So what's that, the first 10 to 15? No, that's the first 32 minutes. That is over a third of the movie, and so far the plot is Elektra rents an Airbnb and has dinner with her neighbors.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is,
that's how boring it is.
I feel like it's paced so poorly to the fact where, what you said that was, 30 minutes in that all that happens?
That is 30 that is roughly 32 minutes out of 94 minutes.
Yeah, so, and it's not even, I feel like it goes in bursts where, things will happen and then nothing. They do, the whole, like you said, animated prologue that gets you up to speed, and it catches you up to somewhat, and you're like, okay, cool, and then it's just, nothing, and it's boring.
Oh,
and then
God.
It's, and then nothing happens for a while, and then all of a sudden, it for the longest time, it's just her agent being wait in the room. Wait, we don't have the targets yet. Wait. You know what I mean? And then it's all of a sudden she has dinner, she finds out who the targets are, and it's them, and it's out of nowhere all this develops after nothing happened for the past 20 minutes. What is going on?
I'll tell you what's going on. Nothing is going on.
Exactly.
And even when the plot is progressing, it is still paced so slowly. This movie drags probably what could have been an hour-long TV special into an hour 20 movie. And it has the production of a TV show. Just imagine that, but for 120 minutes. Yes. And with horrible screenwriting. And mostly horrible acting. And
yes.
This movie just sucks the energy out of you. Jake was just reading a basic synopsis of the first 30 minutes of the movie, and I nearly fell asleep because just reminiscing about my time with Elektra, it just sucks my life energy.
Yeah, well,
and that's really it.
It's
energy sapping.
To speak to how disinteresting this movie is, I was watching it in standard definition for the first half of it, and I didn't even notice. I swear, halfway through, I said, "Shit, this isn't HD." I was because I was just so bored with it that my brain didn't even focus on it enough to notice that That's
And
how
honestly, you would
that's how bad it
even
is.
honestly, even switching to HD, it's not like you could barely tell because the lighting in this movie. I know we
So
talk about
bad.
lighting like a weird amount. I feel like, but everyone's super washed out in this movie, like that, like to the point of like half their face is just like a bright light, and
Yeah.
then when like
And when
on
it's dark,
the rare
you can't see shit.
Oh god, yeah, it's awful.
That's-
well, yeah, and there's on like the rare occasions when they're not washed out, like you said, when it's dark, there's like they use a lot of blues and oranges, but there's no real like rhyme or reason to the aesthetic. It feels like they were just like, ooh, I know that filmmakers use color to mean things, so I'm just gonna use color. But like, I don't understand what like even Daredevil. We had plenty of criticisms of Daredevil, but like I really enjoyed the color palette in Daredevil of the warm red of his costume with the general like cold blue of New York City. I thought that really made sense, but nothing in this movie seems to have a rhyme or reason. It's just done because somebody was like fucking around with the color grading.
It's
Well,
very
that just
like
goes to this movie's lack of an art style. It just kind of looks like someone just took a camera to certain places and then just filmed whatever was there. It doesn't really seem like someone was making a piece of art.
You
just
know
seemed
what?
like someone was pressing record
It
with
almost-
a camcorder.
it almost feels like AI made this movie. You know what I mean? Like there's just no heart in it.
Here's the thing, right? Oh no. Here's the thing, right? I
It feels
have
like they-
I'm
a
never
lot of
gonna
things
get to
against
speak
AI
in.
art, right? I have a lot of things against AI art, but AI SpongeBob has better screenwriting than this.
I know,
okay?
but I just mean
And
it just
when I watched AI SpongeBob, they were talking about how they're going to kill Queen Elizabeth. That's how wonkers it is, but it's so
Yeah,
much better than
agreed.
Elektra.
I'm not disagreeing, but my point is just like it feels like it was made with like knowledge of certain film techniques and writing techniques, but not how to use them. So it just kind of jumbled into this mess of like them trying to put effort towards certain things but not knowing how, and then other things just being entirely bad. It's not good.
So you're saying, oh, I guess I'll let Sean go. I talk too much.
I was gonna say I can at least speak to this. This movie had a lot of production problems, mostly in the fact that like they didn't get a lot of money to begin with, but also that they were given a very, very, very short production time, and were told to essentially cram this in as a contractual obligation. So like, oof, that's probably why it's as bad as it is. Because they were just doing as little as they could with the time that they had, and it shows so much.
It really does. Like, start kind of on what Sean said, because I'm really glad Sean brought it up. Jennifer Garner reportedly like had no interest in doing this movie, but was contractually obligated. And I'm still kind of surprised Fox went through with it, because it's not like Daredevil was like some smash hit. Like I think it made like a modest profit, but it's still weird that they were like, oh, let's do a spinoff with a star who doesn't want to be there. And I think too, and like, Jennifer Gardner's already really miscast in this role. We talked about that like ad nauseum in the Daredevil episode. But even between like, you can tell she's doing it out of obligation. Like she's bored, just as bored as the viewers are. And to her credit, I don't necessarily think she's like phoning it in per se. But it's just, she's so miscast, and it's such a problem in the movie. And it's such an empty film, both in terms of like, there's not plot in terms of like literal like A happens, B happens, C happens, like nothing's happening there, so it doesn't even like keep your like lizard brain interested. And then there's not story either. Like nobody in the movie really goes through much of an arc. Elektra's kind of like a hesitant assassin at the start of it, and she's a hesitant assassin at the end of it. And Mark and Abby are running away from Abby's destiny at the start, and they're running away from Abby's destiny at the end of it. But what Sean's talking about with like the really rushed production they had, and this movie had a $43 million budget, which is like about $67 million today. And I think in the end, it could have been much better. It shows in a lot of like the visual effects are pretty poor. Like when there's some assassins die, there's like this green smoke that looks real bad, and there's flying sheets towards the end of the movie that I thought was like a cool concept and like the only really visually interesting thing they do. But then also the sheets stopped flying very early into the fight, probably because they didn't have money, and they looked crappy anyway with the VFX, probably because they didn't have money or time. And it's almost like when you had a ninja assassin main character, you could have just made this a martial arts movie and had a lot of like wire work and practical stunt work. But instead you decided to, like, I know there's mysticism within Elektra, but just focus on the martial arts. If you don't have the time or money, for the visual elements of that.
Yeah, it feels very like to your point, like it's a ninja assassin main character. Like so do something to that strength. Don't just make it an action superhero movie. Like do what you can with your budget and the character. Don't like it feels like they're trying to like, and I think a lot of comic book movies do this where they try to like shove it into a cookie cutter of what an action movie is or what a superhero movie is, you know?
The other thing that I also found hilarious was that the director of this movie, when like coming to term with the criticism that he was given for it, said that they had originally done this movie as a character movie as opposed to an action movie, which to me makes me go, what the fuck? And also the action that they have in this that is sparingly in here is edited so poorly. There was only like one fight scene that I was like okay with, and the others are like edited so terribly. It makes me want to smash my head into a wall and cry.
And you know what?
Oh yeah.
To agree with you, Sean, not only are they edited poorly, did you feel like they felt so awkward in certain choreography, like certain stances they'd go into, they just didn't feel like they knew what they were doing, which us ninjas and assassins would know what they were doing.
The number one example for me is okay, real quick. So these assassins come to kill Mark and Abby. Elektra decides to spare them and deny the contract. She returns just in time to protect them from assassins sent by the Hand, a crime syndicate of ninja mercenaries. And when she's protecting them, there's a scene where she's just standing still and then leaps into the air, kicks her legs out for no apparent reason, and it's in slow-mo again for no apparent reason. This movie uses slow-mo really poorly in a way that's just like, why? Like, you got it, it's a tool. It's another example of them using a tool but not really seeming to know why they're using it. And she just like kind of slow-mo, and it almost looks like she's gliding, like there's like a lag of her body beneath or whatever, like it's like a paintbrush straight up into the ceiling to kill the one guy. And she does it like she sends Mark in and acts like he doesn't, tries to do it like slyly. It just looks, like you said, like really awkward. Like, why is she just jumping straight into the air, and like why are her legs kicking out?
And it's like,
the action's at best fine, at worst just goofy and sloppy.
It feels like they spent no time, like it feels like they had the choreography and they learned it, but they spent no time learning how to make it look real, and like they learned the moves they were supposed to be doing, but not how it should look, you know what I mean? Like that's what it felt like when I was watching it.
Yeah, I'll tell you what they did. They took like a 5-minute tutorial on how to make a John Woo movie, and they tried to stretch that out for 120 minutes. That's what they did. That's basically what they did. They tried to do like a bunch of slow motion, try to do like a bunch of artsy shots, and it just doesn't work. It doesn't work at all.
And
the
you know
action
what?
is so flat.
And I was also gonna say that Sean's other thing that he mentioned, that what the director saying that they initially were gonna make it a character story, that's crazy too, because there's no character in this movie, but there's also not much action, and when there is action, it's not great. So it's like, what is their aim here?
I was gonna say, to Matt's point of the slow-mo, oh my god, it's such a bad use of it, because it's during, like, in the middle of fight scenes, it halts everything and brings everything to, like, this, like, heavy stopping point when I'm supposed to be seeing action, and it's like, why? You don't keep it moving. Nothing is like any sense of progression in any way, shape, or form is not here. It's so sad.
I'm going to tell you right now is slow-mo can be overused, and you can really get sick of it really quickly. Like the 300 or Zack Snyder movies in general are like a good example of that. But it's like a cliche, or like an action cliche, for a reason. It works. It emphasizes action. The problem with Elektra and its uses of it is that the action is bad, really bad. And so what they're emphasizing is shit. And you just, what it does is that it doesn't really emphasize the action. It just elongates your suffering.
Yeah.
Because you know that you could have just finished this fight scene in a half second, but instead they drag it out for at least 30 more seconds because they think this action shot looks so cool.
Because slow-mo is good to enhance fight scenes, but it's not good to make fight scenes better. You know, like, it doesn't make it doesn't make a bad fight scene good. It just makes a good one better, is what I meant to say.
Exactly.
Here it makes everything feel less fluid, and less natural. And I'll give it this. Look, I mean, you guys maybe there is like one action piece that I like, and you guys may roast me for this, but I genuinely, the movie kind of has a decent start to me. It opens with her just like on a hit, and first of all, I love Elektra's costume in this movie. I think her costume is genuinely great. I wish it was what they would have used in the Daredevil movie instead of that like shiny black leather. And I like that this movie starts with her already as an established assassin. The prologue thing's like just kind of boring exposition, but if it means we get to jump right into stuff, cool. But then they jump right into stuff and go nowhere. I wish Daredevil had just started with her like this. But anyway, like the opening piece of her as an assassin, and she's slowly picking off the guys in the shadows. And then she whispers, like she always whispers in people's ear before she kills them. Well, they say she always does, but she only does it at the start of the movie and then never again. And she like whispers in the guy's ear, and then all of a sudden she's back across the room again and throws her scythe through his back, and it like pins his gun to him before he can draw it. That whole thing is good. And like, I can imagine if I was seeing this in theaters, I'd be like, oh, okay, we're on a good start. This is promising. And then nothing else good for the rest just sucks.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah, they
is,
did
like,
a decent
walking
job.
away from the movie, the best action and the best fight scene is the very first one you see, and nothing even comes close to rivaling it. And it's not because it's that fantastic, it's just because the rest is so bad.
Yeah, but that's the thing though. It's like, it's not even good. It's just okay. But it's just,
that's what I mean.
When I first started watching this movie, I'm like, oh, this is actually not that bad. It's okay. And then just nosedives into mediocrity, and then it nosedives into a cactus chamber, and then you're just going pricked and bleeding everywhere. But it didn't start out bad. And that's the most disappointing part. Like, it kind of had like a John Wick thing of them building up the protagonist to be like this terrifying entity, right? But instead of them continuing that narrative throughout the entire film, and for that protagonist to justify that introduction, no, we don't get any of that here. We just get some lackluster action here and there, and then some really shitty slow-mo. And I don't know. And then for Jennifer Garner to be yet another mom in another movie, like, come on, really?
Yeah, they really do turn Elektra into a mom. Wait, okay, but we haven't talked about, I can't believe I forgot about this, the weirdest part of the movie, that it is randomly set at Christmas for no apparent reason. And we find out because, like, there's no indication in any of the sets in anything that it's Christmas time, because they want to use it like as a twist, but then that's also, again, never mentioned. But the dinner they invite Elektra to, she gets there and they're like, oh, it's Christmas dinner. Did you not know today's Christmas Day? And I think they're supposed to be like, wow, because Elektra's so isolated and she doesn't have anybody. But I'm like, is she also just like a fucking idiot? And why is your house not decorated? And why are you guys only acknowledging it's Christmas for the first time now as you're about to eat dinner? It's just like, and then it's never mentioned again that this is Christmas, and the season, it does not appear to be particularly like dead of winter, and it's just like, I was like dumbfounded that when they said Christmas, I couldn't believe it.
Like, I get that they're on an island too, so it's not gonna be like wintry at all by any means, but it's just such an odd, like, why does it have to be Christmas? They could have just been like, hey, we're having dinner, do you want to come over? It doesn't matter if it's Christmas or not. It's just such a weird tiny detail to throw in there that I know it's supposed to be to make her seem like she's isolated from everyone, but it's like, come on, just it does not matter. It really doesn't.
That's the thing, is like, if they wanted, like, they could have done any number of things to show examples of her being like an isolated loner that's, completely out of touch with society and whatnot. But, like, that wasn't the way to do it. And it was weird that they did it, and it was very out of the blue. it was just bizarre.
Hell, she's renting a house. Shouldn't that house be decorated, presumably? I mean, maybe the wheelwrights don't celebrate Christmas, but it just feels really, really weird.
It was weird because I was like, I actually, like, when I was watching it, was like, did I miss something? Like, did they establish it being set in this kind of time and I missed that?
Like, why not?
Because
it
was
do that,
just
you
very random.
You want to hammer it home. McCabe should be like hanging up phone calls with her being like, well, Merry Christmas. And she should be surrounded by Christmasness and feeling isolated because of it.
Yeah.
And that's how you use that setting to make her feel alone. You don't have one random line in a movie that has no indication that it's set at Christmas and then never mention it again. It's just so fucking stupid.
It's
no,
one
Jake,
thing.
don't you understand? Don't you guys understand that time developing the character and understanding their motivation can be used instead to make a bunch of useless montages? Especially my favorite montage being her OCD montage. Do you guys love that? Do you love how she arranges her bathroom?
Oh god, that was so bad. I hated that. This movie does not know what
OCD is. She counts, so she has OCD. And also, she apparently thought she had OCD as a kid, but thought it just went away. Because, again, this woman is apparently just stupid. And, again, this movie just clearly and I know it's 2005, but just absolutely zero grasp on what OCD is. Nobody even gave it a quick Google.
Guys, don't you know it goes away?
OCD is
she cleans, so she's OCD. It's when you count and clean.
Yeah, look at
OCD
that.
Is when count.
It's OCD is just when you put things in symmetrical order, and that's really it. There's nothing to do with neatness. No, they just like the way things look. That's really it. Right?
Yeah, it's totally not like an anxiety disorder that can manifest in different ways and
exactly,
like, completely.
Oh yeah, it's not a mental illness. It's not a mental illness. It's just a quirk. It's just a quirk that you have.
It's just when you count your steps, actually.
All right, I'm gonna speed through some plot because there's some things I want to talk about, but I want to get some like context for. Roshi, Master of the Hand, learns of the failed attempt and permits his son Kirigi. That was good. To lead a new team of assassins to kill Elektra and return with Abby, referred to as the Treasure. A little creepy. Elektra tries to leave Abby and Mark with Stick, but he scolds her and tells her to protect them himself. She takes Mark and Abby to McCabe's country house, but is followed by Kirigi, Typhoid, Stone, Kinku, and Tattoo. Elektra flees with Mark and Abby through a secret underground exit to an orchard, while McCabe sacrifices himself to buy them time. I'll give them this. McCabe gets beheaded and it actually looks pretty sick. Kirigi and the assassins hunt down the trio in the orchard. Elektra kills Stone, while Abby and Mark kill Kinku with one of his own daggers. As Elektra is distracted by the revelation that Abby has martial arts skills, Typhoid gives Elektra the kiss of death. Abby is captured by Kirigi. Stick and his chase ninjas arrive, forcing Kirigi and Typhoid and Tattoo to retreat. Stick saves Elektra from death and takes them under his protection, despite just previously saying that she needs to do it on her own. Stick then confirms that Abby is the Treasure, a martial arts prodigy whom the Hand seeks to use. Elektra learns that she was a treasure herself, resulting in her mother becoming a casualty of the fight between the Chased and the Hand. She also guesses, there's a bunch of flashbacks to her traumatic memory that she's like sort of blacked out about her mom's murder. She also guesses that Stick set up the hit on Mark and Abby in order to test Elektra's propensity for compassion. I'm going to give a couple more sentences because I need to give myself a second before I can even confer with my thoughts. Elektra astrally projects herself to a meeting with Kirigi and challenges him to a fight, the winner claiming Abby for their own purpose. Elektra returns to her childhood home to face Kirigi and realizes that the horned demon in her memories that killed her mother was actually Kirigi. So, you guys want to talk about how, like, fucking shit all of the villains and supporting cast are? Because they're, like, bad.
I don't even, like...
No, I don't want to talk about it.
They just, like, weren't even... You could have just taken most of them out of the movie and like it would have been the same. They could have like not been in the movie aside from like Abby and what's his name, her dad, could have just been
Mark.
Like they could have just been her like a sympathetic pair of targets for her and the movie would have been the same without them continuing to be in it. You know what I mean? Like it really doesn't, like, they don't add much for the most part.
Yeah, especially they don't do a great job with the whole treasure thing with that, like, bit of lore. They don't... So, like, in the comics, and again, not everything has to be one-to-one, but the Hand want to, like, raise this thing called the Beast, and, like, they use Elektra is the key to doing that, and they want to raise him, base this, like, demon to Earth or whatever. It's, like, a whole, like, cult. and like instead the hand kind of just looks like they're in like a business meeting. And I'll say this, like I think like the group of assassins, like kind of like some of the powers are cool. I always in particularly thought like the tattoo based powers were cool, I'm not gonna lie. And I'd even say that they like do a decent job of like seeming like a force to go against. Like I buy them as a threat to Elektra, especially since there's like 5 of them. But because none of them have like anything in the way of any kind of personality, and neither does anyone on like the Hand High Council, you just kind of left with like faceless villains. And yeah, they're a threat, but the action sucks, so whatever. And nobody has like a personality, so it's not like there's anything to like latch onto. And in the end, it's just more emptiness, and it really emphasizes just how little's going on in this movie.
Yeah, it's really disappointing because it feels like they were going for something like Kill Bill, where it's like like you have multiple villains. It's a martial arts kind of set or action movie, so it kind of like it feels like that was what they were going for, and that's what they took inspiration from. But like, they failed spectacularly by giving none of these villains any character whatsoever, and also obviously the pacing. I think the pacing is like one of the worst things about this, and it's just it ruins it. It just ruins it so much.
I want to take a moment to appreciate the fact that everything positive we've said about this movie has had some kind of qualifying statement about how that's also actually a bad thing.
That's very true. That is very true. I think the only thing I haven't qualified is like well, no, here I'll call for it right now. I think Elektra's suit looks fucking awesome, but also they use it in 2 scenes. Why is she not in it for most of the movie? She's in civilian clothes for a lot of it. She should have been in it for like the only time she should not be in the red costume in this movie is when she's actively undercover on the island. Other than that, should have been it the whole time. It looks great. I hope to see something like that again in a live action adaptation someday. Why didn't we use it more? So there's your fucking caveat.
All right, so I think we're across the board got caveats now on all positive statements we've said about this movie.
There were positive
Here's some more
statements?
negatives. Here's good point. Here's some more negative statements. Terrence Stamp is a very bad stick. He has a poor performance. You can tell he's just going through the motions, I think. His presence doesn't fit the character at all.
Oh,
he doesn't even seem to be I couldn't believe that he was supposed to be blind. Both in his mannerisms and his eyes, like they don't do anything with them. He just looks like a dude, and he doesn't seem to be acting blind at all. And like compared to like Affleck and the way he performs as Matt in Daredevil, and like not even to mention Charlie Cox's performance as Matt in the Daredevil show, it's just such a low effort performance. Like that man, and I respect just showing up for a paycheck, but as long as I'm here criticizing the movie, he's fucking terrible.
He didn't even seem like he knew like what the movie was about or what was going on or what he was supposed to be doing. That's the vibe I
can just
kinda
imagine.
got. Yeah.
Just imagine just goes into the set. Where's my script? Give me it already. These are my lines. Okay,
Like,
let's do it. Let's get this over with.
I think
And then he just reads them with like a little bit of a smile, and then he goes back to his trailer to drink the rest of his whiskey.
it
like-
seemed like he read
Just-
his cues and his lines and nothing else and didn't care
Yeah.
about the rest. And to be fair, if I were in this movie, I couldn't be fucked to care about it either. So
Exactly. He
I'm
probably just went
to be
there.
honest, you know
to-
what? That's to this movie's credit.
That's
Because
True.
he's acting the same way I feel, just disinterested at all. He doesn't want to be there. He's only there because he's getting paid. He's not doing well. He's just there. And that's how I felt.
Yeah, I mean, shout out to Scott Glenn, who's a great stick in the Daredevil show and the Defenders. But yeah, this is fucking bad. And let's round it out. Abby's boring. Abby's a nothing character. She's a breathing MacGuffin.
Yes.
Mark is got to be the most milquetoast male lead or romantic interest we've seen in any of these movies yet. McCabe looks like he wants to be 13 and is like just never grew out of that like cringy 13-year-old emo phase. Not that there's anything wrong with emo music, but you get my point. And the only thing decent about him is when he gets beheaded.
Listen, Mark, his character's name could have been Generic Man and I wouldn't have noticed. You know what I mean? Like, that's the kind of, like, he just came and I was like, oh, this is just a human being.
Jason,
that's all I saw him
you
as.
can replace half of the characters' names with generic character.
That is true.
And there will be no significant difference in their impact of the movie, because I'm going to tell you right now, I don't remember anybody's name. Not a single one other than Elektra. And the only reason why I remember her name is because it's on the title. And I have at least elementary school level reading. And that's really
Do you?
it.
I mean,
I do. I verified it today when I read the title. I'm like, oh, look at that. I read it. Cool.
I verified it today when I read
and
the
then
title.
I turned it on and was tuned
when,
out.
You know, I read.
Exactly.
And the movie like hinges everything on Mark and Abby, but they're so boring. And everything, it also like, it would have been much better if Elektra had like, let's say Elektra knows that they're the targets from the jump and goes to the island fully intending to kill them for the $2 million. And then after going to their dinner, she goes to the dinner only to assess the security they have at their place, because she assumes that there's going to be something there. There's not. And then she realizes she doesn't like that this isn't her and she doesn't want to be that person. And then she actually has to make a decision that we doubted that she would make by declining the job and then protecting them. But instead, she like knows from the jump and pretty much never intends to kill them, so she has no actual character arc. Also, like, you know, if you made Mark and Abby interesting, it would help the movie, but I guess that's too much to ask.
Here's the thing, Jake. We're in that territory where me and you, who are basically nobodies when it comes to the entertainment world, can think of better ideas than people who actually get paid to do this. Like, once we get into this territory, you know that the movie we're talking about is a piece of shit and a total lost cause, and should be forgotten and burned in cinema history.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking about that. Like, if Catwoman in this was the bullshit that was okay to put out into movie theaters, I could have been a screenwriter in the 2000s.
Exactly.
Man. Dude.
But that's the thing, though, right? Is that people who get paid to write scripts wrote Catwoman and this piece of shit movie. So you know what that says? Go after your dream.
I was gonna say,
think you can write a movie, you probably can. Alec Kurtzman still has a job, and he wrote the Transformers movies, okay?
That gives me hope, because people did get paid to write Elektra, and they didn't do a good job.
All right.
I'm going to say this right now, right? You want to do music? Do music. Imagine Dragons is an incredibly popular band, and yet they are the most awful pop band I have ever heard.
I'm fully subscribed to
decades.
the theory. I'm fully subscribed to the theory that Imagine Dragons is a fully fabricated band exclusively to make music for commercials.
Yeah, they might as well be an AI band, because they have no identity whatsoever.
Or
their fans could be AI.
Not in a
or their fans could be AI because they have literal no taste in music.
Like, every time you turn on the TV, half of the commercials on TV, I feel like, have an Imagine Dragons song in them. They're purely fabricated by somebody. Do
you think that Imagine Dragons
commercial
just goes to their studio and just be like, okay, Coca-Cola commissioned a song to be made for their next series
I don't think
of commercials?
They are even real people. I think they just, like, they might be, like, robots or actors. Like, I don't believe Imagine Dragons is what I'm getting at. I don't buy it. I don't buy the whole Imagine Dragons thing.
We could cut this short, because it seems like Jake wants to say something. But to cut a long story short, you can follow your dreams, because people who are much shittier at what you want to do have that job.
Probably do it.
Is basically what I'm trying to get at.
I mean, y'all can keep ragging on them if you want. I you know, sometimes I can't tell when a thing's rounding out or when y'all are still in your bag.
Oh no, I don't have much.
Well, okay, no, it wasn't going to round out.
You've been in your bag. Y'all have been in your bag tonight, I think. We got a Matt rant right off the bat about the Tara Strong panel. Y'all been tearing into this thing in like a fun way. This movie sucks, but I'm having a grand old time.
I'm surprised that this wasn't as boring as the movie was, because this movie was goddamn awful.
Yeah, it's not hard to be more I could, like, put a top hat on and I'd be more entertaining than the movie. Like, I could.
Where did you even pull that out of your ass?
I don't know. Like, I could walk down the street with, like, clown shoes on, and people would be like, "Oh, that's kind of funny," and that would be more entertaining than this movie.
Can I get that?
And it would waste less time.
But can I get that?
And it would waste less money.
All right, for the folk, I'm gonna wrap up the story for the folks that are really on the edge of their seat about it.
Do you really need to wrap up the story? Everyone knows it sucks.
It will bother me if I don't, Matthew. Elektra's defeated by Kirigi. Abby arrives and engages him long enough for Elektra to recuperate. Elektra and Abby then escape and hide in a hedge maze. But Abby is captured by the snakes, dispatched by Tattoo. They really thought long and hard about a lot of these names. Elektra finds Tattoo and snaps his neck, releasing Abby. Elektra engages Kirigi a second time, and this time kills him. Typhoid poisons and kills Abby before Elektra throws her sai at Typhoid, killing her. Elektra just desperately tries to wake Abby, then calms herself, lets go of all her rage, which I guess is supposed to be her character arc, but they don't really show her rage, like, ever in the movie. They just kind of say it in the beginning and the end, I guess. And successfully resurrects her using Kimagor, whatever it's called. Who gives a fuck? Elektra gets ready to leave. She and Mark share one final kiss in again, gotta be in the top 3 at least worst romances we've seen. Elektra tells Abby to live a normal life and that they gave each other's their lives back. Elektra leaves, hoping that Abby won't grow up to be like her. Stick appears and points out that Elektra didn't turn out so bad. Elektra bows to Stick to thank him. He bows to Elektra and then disappears. I mean, yeah, the conclusion's the conclusion. The good guys win. It's, I don't really have anything to say about it either way, other than I don't give a fuck about anyone here.
Yeah, it was bad.
I don't care.
It was bad. We got it.
That's it.
Elektra's regressed. Everything sucks.
It's not good. It's disinteresting.
Still not
bad.
I did not care.
It's still not my least favorite movie we've watched.
The movie ended, and I was like, "That's 90 minutes. I'm not getting back."
I call it mercifully short, but it
Supergirl's-
doesn't feel that way.
Yeah, that's the
I still
thing.
think
It felt like it
Supergirl
was
is
like
worse than
3
this.
hours.
It felt so long. I hated
God,
it.
it felt like it was
Well, here's the
ages.
thing,
I felt
right?
like I was watching that for so long, and then I looked at the time, and I was like, "Oh my goodness."
Well, here's the thing that I'm thankful for, and some of the positives of this movie. Okay.
I had to really think again.
Was that
It's
a
not,
was
it's
that a
not
bit?
a bit. I'm actually genuinely trying to think of positive.
You should have taken the credit for that being a bit.
That was fucking
it wasn't
hilarious.
a bit. It's not. It wasn't a bit. That's the
But
worst
that's
part.
even
It wasn't
funnier
a
that
bit.
it wasn't a bit. That he was genuinely trying to think of something positive and just blanked.
Let me think of something positive. It's,
I mean,
there was there's that one part.
I'll start you off. My favorite thing is the opening assassination and her red suit. The costume looks good. My least favorite thing, other than just the general statement of how boring it is, honestly, I'm gonna stick with the Christmas thing. It's pissing me off more I think about it. The way they're just like, "Hey, it's Christmas dinner," and then never mentioned it again.
Jake.
And no, I don't recommend it. It's garbage. Don't watch it. Even if you like Daredevil, don't watch it. It'll make you like Daredevil less.
Jake, I'm glad you feel that way about that Christmas aspect. I'm glad it enrages you more when you think about it. It's good to feel that way sometimes.
Is that how you guys feel about me when we watch movies like this for this?
No.
Yes.
You know what I
Let
thought
the
about?
anger-
At least you're honest, Matt.
I was just thinking about, if I jumped from my window at the right angle, I might be able to break my neck.
God damn, we mention suicide too much on this podcast.
Well-
every time there's a bad movie, one of you is like, "Oh, I could just die."
Listen, I also mentioned suicide a lot in the music I've been working on.
What are we, some kind of suicide squad?
What are we, some kind of Suicide Squad?
And Jake, about the suicide thing, I'm going to tell you right now, some of these movies just suck so much life out of you that you're just left as a husk, and then you're just questioning whether it is worth living anymore. Because
Yeah,
if
he's got a
this
point.
piece of shit exists in front of me, then there's no point to human life.
Not
That's
that there's
really
much
it.
question. Not that there's really any question left. But does anyone else want to do their favorite, least favorite, recommend?
Yeah, my
I guess I will.
My favorite part, I think Jennifer Gardner looked great in the suit. I think the suit looked great. I think she looked great in it. She looked beautiful in this movie.
It's a low bar when your top thing about the movie is Jennifer Gardner's
Well, no,
beautiful.
she looked like
That's all I can say.
She
That's just,
pulled
and that's
off
she looks like she looks like. It doesn't even have to do with the movie.
Well, no, I know, but not only did the suit look good, she pulled it off well. I felt like my least favorite part was
the movie.
Yeah, pretty much. No, my least favorite part was anytime they opened their fucking mouths to speak. Because I knew they were gonna say some bullshit, some terrible dialogue,
I guess it's my turn then.
and it was probably
Well-
gonna be delivered poorly too.
Well, I am going to go against the grain, and I am going to say I recommend this movie. The reason for that is because for any of our viewers who suffers from getting sleep, this movie is absolutely perfect to you. It's like a magic pill. Like, it's so boring and
I'm clapping into the mic because that was great.
that you will immediately fall asleep. And the best part is that it's only an hour and 20 minutes, so it won't even drain that much of your battery life in your mobile devices. So you'll wake up, right? It won't drain all your batteries, so you'll probably still wake up from your alarm. So it's absolutely perfect. So that's why I recommend it.
Jesus Christ.
I don't recommend it, man. I see your point, and I don't disagree with you, Matt, but man.
Oh yeah, so you should probably visit your doctor before being prescribed a watch session of Elektra. Just to get that out there.
That's a good point. Thanks for that disclaimer.
Thanks, Matt. Beautiful. 10 out of 10.
That was great.
Unlike Matt, who gets a 10 out of 10, this movie gets a 0 out of 10. This is... I don't recommend it. My least favorite part is definitely the pacing. Oh my god, it's awful. The fact that they can't even pace a fight scene right is just abysmal. God, I hate it. My favorite part, they had some neat ideas, I guess.
Wow.
That's it.
Ringing endorsement.
That is crazy.
So you don't recommend it? Damn.
No.
Yeah, I mean,
no.
Here's what I'll say. Because I was looking at my list. I just threw this on my ranked list of everything we've done, and I just wanted to bring it up because we were talking earlier about what a bad job Hollywood had done to this point with women-led superhero movies. My bottom three from we've watched 29 movies total, including both versions of Superman 2. So going 27 through 29, my bottom three are Elektra, Supergirl, and Catwoman. Those are all three wonderful characters. Well, I mean, Patient Phillips isn't, but Catwoman's Lena Kyle is. But yeah, I mean, that tells you all you need to know. I'll put it over. This isn't my least favorite movie, but it's damn close.
Yeah, it's bad.
So thanks to ALO VFX for their artwork, enabling us to make this podcast and watch this movie. ALO VFX. Thank you to Jason for making music for this podcast that we watched this movie for.
I made the music for it, the intro, outro music, and I'm working on more music that'll be out at some point. I was working on it a lot this weekend.
It's better than Imagine Dragons.
And it probably is. You can follow me at _UpsidesPA on Twitter, and the Upsides PA on Instagram, and the Upsides on SoundCloud.
And you can follow Culture Illiterate on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and subscribe to Culture Illiterate Podcast on YouTube. You can follow us at illiterate_pod on Twitter and Instagram if you just can't get enough of us. You can reach us at cultureilliteratepod@gmail.com for questions, comments, concern for our mental well-being. Next episode, we're going to be talking about Keanu Reeves' version of Constantine from 2005, which is a movie that is either very enjoyable or quite bad, depending on who you ask. So I am honestly intrigued at where we all lie in that regard, and at the very least, if it's somewhat polarizing, it can't be as bad as Elektra, knock on wood.